How lucky are we? Welcome, Dr. Biss, again to the cafe, and it's so glad to have you here, even though times are still as troubling as they've always been. How
Yeah.
have you been yourself?
Hanging in there. I'm still trying to figure out whether or not I'm on an ACIP committee or not. I'm not.
I don't know what that means myself. Sorry, you have to put me in.
So the advisory committee on immunization practices, which I was appointed to by Bobby Kennedy, okay,
Yeah.
never made it to a meeting. The
Oh.
American Academy of Pediatrics is suing Bobby and HHS because they don't have time to counsel their patients on vaccines. So all the changes we would be making would disrupt their workflow in the office, see. So they found a rogue judge in Massachusetts, which is very left, to basically stay any decisions Bobby's made since June of last year. So basically, none of us were ever really appointed to this committee. And what really sucked is there was both times I canceled a week of patients because I had to be there for 4 days. I had to reschedule surgeries. The day before the meeting's supposed to happen, the meeting was canceled. So they have no respect. A lot of the people on this committee are physicians, and it's just, and one of them is a high risk obstetrician. So you're potentially, impacting pretty important patient care by doing that, So anyway, I don't know what's going on with that. It's sad. I thought naively I was going to be able to make some change with regards to immunizations and pregnancy, but, here we are.
Well, it's even worse than that. They've rewound all of the changes made by the committee back to where it was in 2025, and so the numbers of childhood vaccines is back to its all-time highs, and yeah, it's quite disappointing that they're still holding their cards close to their chest about whether or not they're going to appeal. We've got until May the 15th, I understand, the decision to appeal the decision.
Yeah, so my understanding is probably nothing's going to happen until after our midterm elections. So that would be not until January of next year. And
Wow.
if we don't win the House, which is not looking very good as far as Republican wins, they'll do the same thing they did last Trump term, is they'll spend the last 2 years trying to impeach. And I'm sure they'll get rid of, Bobby. So I mean, I'm hoping I'm wrong. I've always been a glass half empty. But the problem is that a lot of people that voted for Trump were going to vote for Bobby. And so a lot of those people feel a little let down because Bobby's hands are obviously very tied about what he can do. And pretty much what have we changed with MAHA, or Make America Healthy Again? We got rid of red food dye, and we've changed the food pyramid, which anyone with half a brain already did that on their own. So there's a lot of people that sadly are just, they're like, what's the point in even going to vote, right? So
Yeah.
it's
Because it really speaks to power. It really speaks to who actually is in power. Because, well, big pharma, I mean, their economies are bigger than Sweden and Poland. These are powerful opposition you have against you. Yeah, I'm amazed Kennedy's still alive. I mean, there was even another assassination.
Well, yeah,
attempt
they tried number 3 on Trump last night. So, and they were all there. The whole cabinet was there. So
yeah, I don't feel like Robert Kennedy's hands are tied. I feel that his hands and legs are tied, and he's put in a box a locked box in the cellar. He's beginning to wonder what's really going on in his mind, or whether it's external forces that have co-opted him. I don't know. Maybe that's a bit harsh, but really, really wondering what the hell is going on, because they've so effectively undone his work so far, and it doesn't look like. Yeah, you're right. Their politics is trumping, to use the word, everything at the moment, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How about the people on the ground, just ordinary people? Vaccination is down over here. They're plummeting. They're on the news everywhere, going, "Oh, vaccination rates are plummeting. Everyone's in danger. What are we going to do?" And so that's what we're getting from the MSN. How about over there in USA?
I would say yes, the vaccination rates are down. A lot of parents, especially, are really questioning a lot of the vaccines that are recommended for the kids. I think the COVID vaccine uptake is pretty dismal. Although I did see a lady a couple weeks ago, maybe now, she's had 11. How is that even possible? I just looked at her. I said, please stop. I mean, every time a new one comes out, she must be running to the pharmacy. It's just...
I'd say she'd be so full of nanobots. If she farts, she probably changes the channel on her TV.
Oh,
That's incredible. That's incredible. 11. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It would be like a record. I wonder there's somewhere there's, although over here, I have to say, I interviewed a man who got went to a junkie and convinced a junkie to take his shot. And then he convinced the junkie to take the shot for his brother, and a junkie's girlfriend was also a junkie to take the shot for his wife. And what he started was an underground movement, and police officers and all these other people were people who weren't junkies were paying these junkies to take the shots for them. And so we had junkies walking around and taking up to 16, 17, even more shots.
Oh my God.
For $1,000, $5,000 a jab. And the junkies are still alive. Maybe there's a study there.
So we should all start booting heroin. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So it's a really strange world. But can we talk? How's fertility going over there? Because it's very hard to get data here in Australia. I don't know what data we've had lately, Paula. If you've been keeping abreast of it, but
there was a report the other day that Australia is I think Elon Musk said Australia is going extinct. Because we're well below the replacement rate and still falling. So it's a mystery, isn't it?
So we had a report come out within the last month or so in the States that we're the lowest. Our birth rate's the lowest it's been ever, and they predicted in order for us to not start depopulating, every woman of childbearing age in our country would have to have 2.5 babies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, like this year? What? Wow.
Unless I read that wrong, but the rates in all countries had slowly been trickling down, but we were never, no countries were ever depopulating,
No,
so now that's what's happening.
We notice this if you walk around, how rare it is now to see a brand new baby where, it was a quite common sight before, but now it's to see one that's just born or it's very, very, very rare, or at least over here.
Yeah, I mean, I see them every day because that's what my practice is. But yeah.
Yes, I did a tweet maybe 3 years ago saying Australian OBGYNs are going to be out of business soon. But yeah, where I am, I'm blessed to see lots of small babies because I think beaches are the normal nesting ground of pregnant mothers. So I still see them and I'm happy, but the statistics are not good. You've got the cancers going up and you've got the births going down, and they do appear to have accelerated in opposite directions in the last since 2021, which is quite a coincidence.
Baffling.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's funny. It's like this communal joke around the world, you know what I mean? Half the world's like, what's going on? And the rest is like, just hit record on the last 5 years. This message is the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wow. So it must be so difficult or so disappointing to get so close to, real change, because there's so much hope in the world. It must be really tough.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in Australia visiting you guys, Paul, and Roz was saying she thought this was going to be our year. You were as well, of change. And I don't know. It took about a month, and then that was like, well, guess that's not happening, I don't know.
Yeah, do you know what the coincidence was? And I haven't written about this, but that ACIP meeting that didn't happen would have had mind-blowing presentations being made that never got heard. And I don't know, that coincidence is quite interesting because, they were going to talk about DNA contamination. And what have you heard about the material that never got presented because the meeting never happened?
Well, I know that we were supposed to showcase some vaccine injured patients too, so I mean, that was sad. That was the two main things. My understanding was the DNA contamination issue, and that, people that were vaccine injured were going to speak. So it's just sad, just so many people have been let down.
Yes, in the meantime, in the meantime, we've got Nurse Lindsay and Kevin McCann's team in Japan doing this very interesting work on dual double filtration plasmapheresis and stem cell growth factors. And if the results continue to come in like they appear to be coming, that's really exciting, But that wasn't organized by the billion-dollar government organizations. That's just a few anti-vax cookers with scientific knowledge pursuing their, bootstrapping solutions.
Yeah, Lindsay says she's never felt better, Just unbelievable. She's been, damaged since, I don't know how many shots. I think maybe just one, and that destroyed her life, so since 2021. And she's finally has a normal heart rate. She got POTS from the vaccines, Michael, so she'll be sitting like we are, and her heart rate will shoot up for no reason. And she finally has a normal resting heart rate. I mean, it's just amazing. And shame on the Harvards and the Stanfords and all the other places, because they're not looking into any of this. She got to travel to Japan,
incredible,
to have this done.
You have to sell a house.
If she was in Canada, she'd be up for maids, Yeah, I think you can get up for maids for acne now in Canada.
Sorry. That's awful. That's awful. Yeah, I heard, if you have an eating disorder.
Yeah, that's true.
Or depression or something. But, it's all tied to as well the organ harvesting. It's.
I can't believe you're saying this, but it's true.
It is.
Yeah, that's the evidence I see. Have I frozen, Michael?
Yes, you're frozen.
A little bit. Yeah.
I feel a bit frozen. I'm going to pop out and come back in.
Okay.
There's we've been doing this in we saw there was another one in Spain, and a 24-year-old girl euthanized, and all over the Netherlands is bringing it in now, where young people who are depressed. I mean, there's just this seems to be this madness going in the complete opposite direction to the direction we should be going. You know, we've got a low birth rate, and yet here we are actively trying to convince our young people into leaving us. I mean, Paul last night, Dr. Paul, we were showing the ads for euthanasia on the tubes in England, and I just can't.
They advertise it?
Oh,
I can see if I can find it. I could not get my head around when I saw it. It was I did get it last night, but it was
the Westminster Underground has got so many ads that I said to Michael that by the time you got to the underground, you'd throw yourself on the tracks. You know,
right.
They're really pushing it hard, and I think, you know, when you talk about incentives,
can you see that, Dr. Biss?
Wow. And she's so excited about it.
She's so excited by dying, you know. She's going to be in the in crowd. She's got to leave us to do it. Do you know what gets me is, though, the opposition that are going against you and the forces, it's popular, you know, even though Big Pharma is a corporation, it's populated by human beings who have kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, you know, and this damage is everywhere. I mean, everyone can see it now. Everyone talks about it. You know, we've been talking about measles last night because we found a document from the 1960s when they were talking about the measles vaccine, and in the Senate, they're all agreeing that measles was just a minor childhood illness. There's no worries about it. So, but since then, that's all changed. Now CNN will come out with an outbreak. We'll see it over here. I've got an outbreak. It's like 3 cases in Kentucky, you know, and it's like the end of the world, where it used to be the Brady Bunch, as Paul said, the Brady Bunch had them on. Hey, we all got the measles. Let's have a measles party. Yeah. And it's just propaganda everywhere. You know, I'm beginning to think that we thought we were living in freedom, but we were actually living in KGB controlled Russia. We just didn't realize it.
Yeah, and now with AI, you don't even know what to believe, like what videos to believe. It's crazy.
Yeah. So what do we do? What do we do?
Now, what I was going to say, Paul, I don't know if you're familiar with Dan Hartman. His son Sean in Canada died from I believe Pfizer, and last day, not this past, but a week ago, we all found out, because I was at the IMA conference, and we all found out that a judge threw his case out. So he's going to bring it to the Supreme Court. You know, he's trying to raise money, of course, but it's so sad. You know, the poor guy just wants some closure, and, you know, somebody to just say, yeah, you know, just vindicate what we all know, and it's just a shame.
Yes, and I noticed Ernesto Ramirez, you know, he's been posting recently, you know, his son, Ernest Jr., also died after his shot. He was a basketballer. Sean, I think, was a hockey player. And and he's going 5 years, nothing, no accountability. No one has been held to account. You know. The closest he got to the apology was when he was invited to the HHS, and he was one of the 10. His son was one of the 10 children recognized as having died from the jab. You know, by the government, by the people there, and but that's as good as it gets, you know. So he feels my heart goes out to him, because you can see how broken he still feels, that there's been no movement in 5 years. No one's been held to account, and it goes on.
It goes on, and they still are giving it to children.
Yeah, we've got the woman in the EU.
On the line.
Yeah. Here we showed you one of our podcasters made this about her. Where is it? I'll see if I can find it. Yeah, she's so this is her.
Better world also means a healthier world. And vaccination is our best chance to do this. Vaccines have saved millions of lives in the past 50 years.
Kind of feels like we're at. And there's this madness. They're pushing it like it's just like a religion now. It's I know it's a business, but they've so carefully wrapped it up in the dogma of a false religion that people think it's these miraculous things, Yeah, I mean, I haven't met anyone who's taken 11, but we interviewed a nurse the other day who didn't take it. Incredible interview because his brother had taken 5, was full of turbo cancer, had COVID numerous times, and then put himself up for euthanasia, and which is happening over here. And he went to the grave blaming this nurse brother who was unvaccinated, saying, "You're the reason I'm dying. If you'd done what you're told and taken the jab, I wouldn't be dying now. COVID would have been." And so that's, he's hating his brother. These are profound things. There's, and the damage is happening now, and these people are walking around with it. It's like survivor's guilt. And then at the same time, too, these poor other people are dying, even then, incapable of accepting the fact that they've been killed by the state. They've been depopulated. Even one of our greatest sportsmen, a guy called Shane Warne, he died, and we all knew it years ago from the jab, but they concealed it like crazy. They actually blamed chamomile tea in one news interview I was on. They said, yeah, he was on a water diet and he was taking copious amounts of chamomile tea. That's what they said on the radio, and the radio announcers were going, "Oh, chamomile tea." You feel like saying, "Yeah, don't even go near peppermint, mate. You don't want to stay away from peppermint." That's wiped out countries. Countries are gone. They turn up and go, "Where is everybody?" "Oh, peppermint tea." So, but his son came out early and said he thought it was a jab, and then he was silenced. But now 6 years or 4 or 5 years later, whatever it is, he's come out again and said, "Yeah, it's the jabs." So we don't even allow our beloved, the real famous ones, that he was idolized. We don't even allow them to die in the truth. They have to die in the lie that, can't be anything wrong with the vaccines because they're just so miraculously safe and effective. So,
what was his sport? Was he a soccer player or?
Oh, we have a strange sport over here called cricket that you can play
yes.
for 5 days and draw. It's very hard to explain to any other country.
Yeah. Aw. Well, remember when they were saying it was the when all the soccer players were falling on the pitch, and they were saying it's because the referees' whistles were too loud. Remember that? It's like, oh my god.
Yeah. We have a long-standing troll cardiologist, Australian cardiologist, who he still sings the mantra of that side effects are rare. It doesn't believe in turbo cancers, still believes safe and effective. And then recently we had a repressed report that finally came out in the UK that Andrew Brigden posted, where this wasn't a passive surveillance, as in theirs. This was an active surveillance study, and found nearly 1 in 7 had serious adverse events. So somewhere between rare and 1 in 7 is the difference in opinions. And serious adverse, as you know, that's death, that's congenital malformation. That's life-threatening. Doesn't mean you die. It just means if you didn't get treatment or happened to be away from ER, you could have died. And lifelong disability, life-changing. So it's between 1 in 7 and rare. I think the word rare has changed its meaning.
Yeah.
Well, what it clearly states, Dr. Biss, is that any real significant change for the future is going to have to come from the grassroots up. It's going that's it. I mean, basically, people have to start taking responsibility for their own health and bodies. Not just keep being dependent. That the state has their well-being at heart. I mean, they've been caught with the great fraud. Big Pharma has the highest paid fines for fraud. It's quite clear to anyone who watches that their stuff now is dangerous. I mean, we've got John Campbell in England going on about the flu vaccine. Peter Hedgeworth, he's just said you don't have to take it in the army now. So that's one significant win. And but we've sort of got to this point now where it's almost like people have no trust in their own bodies at all. It's like somehow they've been convinced you're here, but Earth is a very dangerous planet, almost as dangerous as Mars, what I mean, with all this fresh air and clean water and food is really dangerous. So you've got to take this shot to keep you alive. It's and they've been doing this for decades and decades everywhere. I mean, you go to doctor surgeries in Australia now, and they're like shrines to vaccines. Every wall has a poster of this beamingly healthy young child and saying, "Get the vaccine, get the vaccine." It's everywhere. It's dogma. To go against it, it's almost like being called a heretic. So I think the change has to be. It'd be great if Bobby could have gone in there and sort of knock down the House of Cards. I think the fact that he got there is a huge success as it is, but the people aren't stupid. I think people are seeing so many injuries, and it's I call it the battle of the little waves. They've got some monoliths here called the 12 Apostles, which are off the West Australian coast, and there used to be loads of them. There's only 3. And they've all been brought down by little waves just pounding away, not a tsunami like a Robert Trump tsunami. And I think we might have to settle down. That's what we have to do. Just chip away the amount of injuries. And I mean, over here now, like there was no autism when I was young, but now I do see people in their 40s, 30s, men in supermarkets walking around with a carer because they're off in another world that they never came back from. It's everywhere around us. And people my age know we have a memory. This was never like this. The country towns were incredibly healthy. The men were all suntanned and bronzed, and the women where you didn't mess with them. Now it's not so much. Now everyone's bordering on obesity, and a lot of the young people are ill. Not all of them, but a lot. And so I think bit by bit, people will see and realize it's a dangerous time now because everything looks nice. But 1984, instead of being dark and gray, it's like yellow, like McDonald's, or something bright like Walmart, and we are sort of controlled more than what we know. I think eventually people hopefully will come around. But now we've got to deal with famine. Which is good since we're all obese. It's like, it's good. We'll get through it.
I saw another oil location in Texas go up in flames this morning. But this time it was a lightning strike, and the video had the kid going, "Mom, lightning." hit the gas works. So, but it's just, yeah, I'm a coincidence theorist, and it's hard to ascribe lightning, but who knows? It's just oil, energy resources around the planet have just been catching fire. So,
can I ask, are the medical authorities after you, Dr. Biss? Are they sort of coming down, or have you got close enough to Robbie? You sort of have some protection.
So, no, I think it helps that I'm in Florida because we have Dr. Ladapo here, and our governor doesn't play any games.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, we only have a few more months left to him. I don't know what's going to happen when he's pretty irreplaceable, I think. But I had a lot of crap I had to deal with when I came back from Australia. The day after I got back, my chief executive officer of my company had me on a phone call because she was very upset that I had been appointed to the ACIP committee, and how long did I know, and I should have given them warning and all this kind of ridiculousness. And they drew up a contract as an addendum to my contract that they wanted me to sign, which was so vaguely worded that, I mean, they could have fired me for anything,
Yeah.
So I never signed it. And then the judge, stayed the committee anyway. So I emailed her and I said, well, I don't need to sign your addendum because supposedly there's no committee now. And she said, oh, that's great news.
Yeah. It does seem to, it's ridiculous. It does seem to me that there's a fight for medical freedom. The trolls seem to really be attacking people who talk about informed consent and the right to say no. And you've still got zealots like Paul Offit go, oh, it's so selfish. People using their judgment and their claiming their right to say no, which is really, you don't have informed consent if you've got mandates. And I notice that there are people state by state now trying to bring in laws to protect bodily autonomy and medical freedom. And I think that's where the battle is, because if people like Paul Offit talk in terms of, we're in public health, we just make suggestions. But where was he in the last 5 years? These suggestions mean, no, you won't be able to take your kids to childcare. We call it no jab, no play in Australia. So your links to the university students weren't allowed to study unless they took the injection. So to me, it's still at the core the freedom to say no, to end mandates of all kinds, and you have these zealots who are deeply conflicted, like Paul Offit, who have made lots of money by selling products called vaccines. And I like Aaron Series' definition of a vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
His definition is anything that the government gives liability protection to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm halfway through his book. It's a good book. Vaccines, Amen. Have you heard of it, Michael? It's Aaron Seary wrote. It's very good. It's very true. It's just it really is a religion.
Yeah, it is. That's how they've marketed it.
Mm-hmm.
I think once they got the indemnity, that's when they started on making it a religion. They always use the word miracle product. Miracle, it's a miracle. It's incredibly clever what they've done, and then the business model goes deeper. Pharmacists, a lot of pharmacists wouldn't survive if they weren't vaccinating and making the money from vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors. I mean, we know that doctors make a fortune from it. It's very, very deeply entrenched. I mean, like when I'm not from Australia. I came over when I was 5, and when we came over, this goes on a different topic, but sort of the same. All Australian boys wear what do you call it? Where they cut the foreskin off? What's that? What's that word?
Circumcised.
Circumcision.
And I used to feel bad as a kid because I wasn't, and like I stood out. But that finally faded out because no one could figure out why they were doing it. It hurt the kid. We weren't Jewish. We weren't, why are we doing it? But it was just entrenched, and people go with the herd, and they put their desire to remain in the herd or safely within the middle of the herd. They're willing to put their child at risk to get to that position. But I do see the change. Like here we are, it's very hard to get down. It's very easy to get down, but here's one so true. We have to take responsibility for our own health. I have had breast cancer, kidney failure, and sarcoidosis, whatever that is. I follow traditional paths. So, I'm hearing this everywhere, that people are looking for alternatives medicine. I think it's because Big Pharma, despite all its power, has betrayed people. And people are not blind anymore. They're seeing the deaths. They're seeing the injuries. They're injured themselves. And so they're not as easy to take over, I think. So we will see the numbers go.
Right.
But
well, a couple things, couple points. They don't go together, but I'm afraid if I don't say them now, I'll forget. But the vets, the veterinarians now, at least in our country, a lot of the practices are being bought up by big corporations. So they're being told from the top what to do. And their main, driver for income now is vaccines, of course.
Yeah.
So if, people are going to refuse shots, but in most states in America, like it's illegal to not have your pet vaccinated for rabies. And guess what? My dog has now, Paul, from his last rabies shot, I'm convinced he's got Addison's disease. He was sick for a year. He kept getting pancreatitis, and they finally got worried when he lost a couple pounds because he's only 17 pounds. So did a bunch of testing and found out that his adrenal glands don't work anymore. So he's getting prednisone every day and monthly aldosterone injections. And I'm convinced it's from his last rabies injection. So I'm going to have a chat with the vet next time I go in, because if any animal needs an exemption, you stress my dog enough, you could kill it, So anyway, it's the vets. The other problem we have here, and I don't know if it's similar in Australia, but a lot of parents are waking up, of course, to the dangers of the vaccines and refusing, but then Child Protective Services gets involved and takes their kids away. So
if
even
they're not
though,
vaccinated.
yes, even though the parents are aware, a lot of them are going to be afraid to decline because they don't want to be investigated by, Child Protective Services.
Yeah, that's my point about Paul Offit. He speaks like these pronouncements by public health are just suggestions, but they've got a big bludgeon behind it, which negates freedom. And we still call it the COVID shots of vaccine. So it's under this umbrella of something that the government says is liability protected. And I remember in 2021, when I was having my suspension hearing, I warned that the shots were actually synthetic gene therapy. And, it was one of the many things like bodily autonomy where they just sneered at me like I was making things up. But just very quickly, I thought I'd back that up. Just you've probably seen this.
For us, therefore, we're really taking that leap, us as a company buyer, in cell and gene therapy, which to me is one of these examples where really we're going to make a difference, hopefully, moving forward. There's some, ultimately, the mRNA vaccines are an example for that cell and gene therapy. I always like to say, if we had surveyed 2 years ago in the public, would you be willing to take gene or cell therapy and inject it into your body, we would have probably had a 95% refusal rate. I think this pandemic has also opened many people's eyes to innovation in the way that was maybe not possible before.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it innovation. I'd call it villainy. It's villainy. Because they called, they're still calling it a vaccine, and still missing the point that this was something very different. This was something that had the potential to permanently change your genes. And this is where the DNA contamination, the thing that didn't get heard at the ACIP meeting, was hugely important. And the DNA doesn't even have to get into the nucleus to wreak its damage, because of the cytosolic DNA. Once the nanoparticles bring the plasmid DNA fragments into the cell, it triggers cancer-producing pathways like C-gas sting, which Kevin McKernan and others have talked about. But of course, we know that in the Pfizer plasmid that they used to construct it, the one that they never tested, the studies were all for the stuff made like in a PCR machine in the lab, nice and clean. And then the one that they gave to billions of people was the stuff that was made in a big vat of genetically engineered poop, E. coli. And in the Pfizer construct, they had SV40, which is a known gene therapy tool and a known carcinogen. And Pfizer actually admitted that they deleted it from the gene map. So it was fraud, but I think people are waking up, so this is something I said, nearly 5 years ago, and it was seen as crazy. But now, in retrospect, it's clear. And I'm just making the point about language. I generally don't call it a vaccine. These mRNA products or DNA products, undisclosed, I call them synthetic gene. And people don't like the word therapy because they say, "Hey, it's a poison. It's a bioweapon. It's not actually a therapy. It's not there to do you good." It's and it also ties into the cancers. We're getting more and more media coverage and recognition of young people now getting colon cancer, breast cancer, even in ages as young as children. And and they said, like you said, they're still giving these shots to children. Oh my God! I mean, this is why I can't stand down until they stop doing that. But even when they stop, the damage will have been done.
Well, they're still giving it to pregnant women too.
That's the second thing. That's the second thing. It's insane. What do you think, Dr. Biss? Is it insane?
Yes.
It seems insane. It seems insane to me that we're tolerating that they're giving an unstudied, and I remember reading at the time that in the reports that were coming out that there was no carcinogenicity studies. They hadn't tested for the ability of the products to produce cancer. They hadn't tested the ability to affect, teratogenicity, the ability to produce birth defects. Yes, 7 Wistar rats, and one of them had rib abnormalities, and they said, "Oh, we'll stop at 7 rats because if we do 8, we might actually get a signal we can't ignore." So much fraud. So much fraud.
Where do you see the hope going forward, Dr. Biss? There's, I'll tell you this is a burden that I was given early on in the marches. I started doing speeches in Melbourne, and a girl sought me out, and she says, "I'm a hermit, unvaccinated," and she says, "I want to be a philosopher." She was a crazy little thing. But what she said was, "You have a moral obligation not to sell hopelessness, no matter how tight its grip." So I hand it to you, that baton. So I know it's really tough now, but we do have that, and we have to pick it up because we can't quit. There's no one else. There's no other, and that until the young lift up themselves, there's no one else. So, you know, we've become very resilient these last few years. Over here, we've lost numerous court cases. Everything's been thrown out. I think Dr. William Bay was the only success that I know of. So, where do you see the hope moving forward?
That's tough because I told you I'm a glass half empty. You know, it's just been, I had a lot of hope the beginning of the year, you know, and then it felt like the rug was taken out from under us. We obviously I don't know what the path is to take, but obviously we have to, as the adults, have to continue to fight because, you know, the younger generation are just clueless, you know, because of the way that they've been indoctrinated, and a lot of them don't want to get involved. They're very much, you know, the ostrich with the head in the sand, and they just go along to get along. And, you know, a lot of them don't even want to have children. They've been made so fearful of adding to carbon, you know, the whole climate change ridiculousness, because climates do change, but a lot of what we're doing is not why they're changing, you know. I don't know. That's a very tough question to answer. Maybe it's because I'm not like, I don't have that brain of, I took one philosophy class in college. I wanted to shoot myself. I was like,
That's deep. You said you're a glass half full. As long as the half that's full is full of alcohol, there's always a chance.
I guess. But I mean, I remember like the first person the professor was talking about was Descartes. I think, therefore I am. And I'm like, no shit, you wrote all this stuff down. You're obviously here. Like, this is dumb. You wrote books about this stuff, like proving you exist. I don't know. I guess I'm too science and math. I don't have that.
That's
part
hilarious.
of my brain.
But it's part of the responsibility of what we're doing. You know, we're in this fight, and it's a hard fight. You're up against a behemoth that's deeply indoctrinated, like all through our system. You know, it's everywhere. Every bus stop, get your vaccines. There's a chemist down the road from here, and they've drawn a chalk family. COVID vaccine, safe for all the kids and everything. Just come in, it's all free. You know, they're just pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. You know,
so are they still paying for it over in Australia? Like the government's paying for the shot? Wow.
Yeah. Well, I think they bought like 11 for all of us. So who knows? And the way they sold it, it was like Harry Potter. They go, oh yeah, you know, if any new variant comes along, we just add a sprig of shit and, you know, and stuff like this, and then it's ready. Here you go. You know, put that into you. All the smoke coming out of it, going, yeah, great. You know, so it's, but people, you know, there's mad fans for it. I even think it goes deeper. I know you say it, but it's actually, I have a theory that the way they pushed it in Australia is when it came out. I know, you, like you said, you don't do philosophy, but when it came out, usually if there's a disaster, the politicians refer to God. Let's keep the victims' families in our prayers. With COVID, they never mention God anywhere. They never mention God in the Easter now. They just don't mention God. All the churches were closed, but all the vaccination centers were open. And basically every morning the human of this new church, you know, big pharma church, would get up and go, well, you know, God Roth is here. That's what they were saying without saying his word. You know, the pandemic is here, but it's okay. We can save you because, you know, safe and effective. That's our prayer. That's our, you know, come and get it. Roll up your sleeves and we'll keep you safe. And they did. And they did. And I wonder how many of them made a theological decision more than anything else. And you know yourself, if you ever meet someone who's got a deep religious faith, there's no use debating it because it's you can't rationalize it like you do science. This is theology or something different. I don't know. It's just looking for reasons with it. I know as they all say it's just psychosis. I'm not a big fan of that.
Michael, I can give you some hope.
Yeah, good.
The mere fact that so many I've got the sun rising to my right here, so I look like I'm in witness protection today, despite lighting. But the public know what's going on in general. I mean, there is that Rasmussen poll that more than half people think large numbers of people had died as a result of the COVID shots. So the public is aware. They're awake. They've become immune. They've become tolerant to the propaganda. Not all of them. The diehards who still have their masks on in the car, sitting alone, but they've been permanently sort of damaged. So that gives me hope. You've got the work in Japan where they're I thought the idea that you had these prion domains on the S1 subunit producing amyloid disease and the new amyloid disease and these calamari clots. I thought, how are they going to dissolve that? How are they going to find any treatment for that? And yet they do appear to be making progress. And then we had George Fareed on a few days ago. Dr. Biss, and he was describing, reiterating ivermectin and fenbendazole in some of the an observational study where like a third of people reported no detectable disease, and another 15% had a reduction in disease, and at 6 months, and another proportion, about 30%, at least had not got worse. So 85% seem to have benefited from, and that was just those two repurposed antiparasitics. And he was talking about how that could be enhanced with metformin and sulforaphane and aged garlic, as attacking different elements of the cancer stem cells. So, I mean, there is hope there, because things that I thought would not be able to be dealt with, in years and years, we're coming up with solutions. To cure the cancer potentially, or finally finding new and better approaches. The only problem is they're still generic, they're still cheap. It was the same, and it was the same. I was yelling about early treatment in 2020 and 2021, and there was no appetite for anything related to early treatment because everyone was being funneled to the synthetic gene injections. But once they came out with their patented, their molnupiravir and their Paxlovid, then all of a sudden, early treatment, everyone go get early treatment. Once they got the patented, expensive pharma early treatment suddenly, and it will be the same with cancer. They're busy patenting the analogs for the antiparasitics so that they can now sell you a high-priced, inferior, whiz-bang new, untested version of the same drugs. And then suddenly it'll be all over them. We've got a cure for cancer, guys. Everyone... and then your oncologist will prescribe it. But I heard Joseph Barone talking with Ryan Cole the other day on a podcast, and he was saying that oncologists are firing their patients when they hear that they've taken ivermectin or mebendazole. So, which is just just like they were firing patients who said, "No, I don't want my child vaccinated." Because and at the root of this, I'm sure, is conflicts of interest. Where the money is coming from, who's paying it, and the American Academy of Pediatrics, who put this activist judge up to blocking ACIP. That's conflict of interest writ large, and I always say. conflict of interest is just a polite way of saying corruption, corruption and incentives. So until we deal with that, we're not. But hope. Back to the point, Michael. There is hope. There is progress happening, but it's always darkest before the dawn, and it's pretty dark.
Speaking of repurposed,
I'd like to give you both a fail on that question, by the way.
I was listening to another podcast, and he was interviewing a guy that became an editor for an oncology journal. And he started going to the conferences that were thrown for oncologists. Of course, they're all sponsored by pharmaceutical companies. And he would go out after the conference, after the lectures, he would go to bars and talk to some of these pharmaceutical reps. And he was talking to one about how they repurposed thalidomide, which like one tablet of thalidomide might cost a penny to make, but they rebranded it for a drug to treat multiple myeloma. They knew it didn't work, but it was like $100,000 for a month for these people to get treated with this stuff that probably cost them 30 cents to make. But of course, the oncologist is selling it in his or her office, right? So the whole point of the drug rep was, we're here to make our oncologists wealthy. They're not there to make the patients better, right? It's disgusting.
That's it, because big pharma is so big now. It has to survive. It needs sick people,
right?
So it's sort of
That's their business model.
incentivized to make people. Imagine, say, wherever you lived. I don't know if you live in a suburb, but say you decided, I don't want to be a doctor anymore. I'm going to be I'm going to have a glass repair shop. And you hire some people to go around because you need to fix 8 windows a week to survive. And windows aren't breaking. So there's an incentive to maybe send out a few kids to go break a few windows and come up and go, oh, your window's broken.
Oh,
I've got the best window for you. Safe and effective. What breaks won't shatter everywhere. No one will come in. You know what I mean? We've got to guarantee,
you won't get COVID.
Yeah. The government will pay for it, and you can have up to 72. And so and this is what it's incentivized to make people sick. The food industry is incentivized to get people to eat more of their products. So they put the stuff in there that people get addicted to. You know what I mean? Try be a marketer trying to sell Brussels sprouts. Good luck. Good luck. You know what I mean?
Oh my God. That was my mother's favorite. Her favorite vegetables were Brussels sprouts and lima beans. Lima beans are disgusting.
Yeah, they are. Everything that tastes good is disgusting. That's one of our problems. And but over here, to be honest, it is doable, because over in Australia, they have a certain really incredibly toxic stuff that when I came to Australia growing up, everybody was addicted to it and they sold it. And it's Vegemite. And most Americans taste Vegemite.
Yeah, it's gross.
The hell, it's
how
like
is
our
it
version
addictive?
of eating, say, lamb's testicles if you're in Mongolia or somewhere. And but they did it, and everyone still does it. So it is possible to sell stuff, but I don't know. I actually think, can I tell you, I think humor is one of the ways forward. The other side don't do jokes. They don't.
Right.
I mean, look at Biden's jokes compared to Donald's. I think some people like Donald in charge just because they wake up in the morning, they know they're going to get a laugh, even if he's ending the world. At least we're going out laughing. But there's like what he said to the Japanese prime minister. I mean, that's like one of the funniest things I've ever seen in Parliament ever. About the surprise. No one knows more about surprises than you.
Boom.
At least we're going out crazy.
Yeah.
Well, so you still haven't heard, Kimberly, whether the ACIP will ever come back. I saw Robert Malone had resigned, which is I think is a great loss to the team. And
It is, and to his credit, I mean,
You're
I
indoctrinated, eh?
never made it up there, but he many hours were spent in the work groups with Bob and Retzif and Kirk Milhone, lots of hours. It is a slap in the face. Robert was really miffed by the fact that nobody came to our defense. The judge basically said none of us were qualified, and
Oh my
he
God,
didn't have any of our CVs. He was just going on what the American Association of Pediatrics was saying. Robert was just done. And I can't say as I blame him. It's just a lot of work, thankless, just slap in the face.
And you were looking forward to the big bucks of being part of the ACIP committee. I mean,
the big bucks, yeah.
The big bucks. Did they pay you any? Did they even pay your airfares to go to the
Yes,
meetings?
they pay.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, they pay your travel, so your airfare, your hotel, your Ubers, a little bit of a food allowance. But I mean, the thing is, all of us lost considerable amount of income by canceling patients, and then canceling them for nothing. It's not like you can just call them the day before your week that's canceled out and say, just kidding. It just doesn't work that way. So it's very frustrating.
If you were just a big pharma shill on the vaccine company's payroll, it wouldn't have. Then you would have been beloved by the judges, fully qualified. But if you're a doctor treating patients or an expert in risk analysis, then you're suddenly unqualified. If you've got any ability in critical thinking and independence, then suddenly the judge is arguing that makes you unqualified.
Because you're going against the narrative.
I think we should use Hollywood to bring you up. Okay, I expected to this. You've got to think back to Rocky. Now I know you're on the canvas. You just got to pretend your dog's name is Stella, or whatever. What was Rocky's girlfriend's name? Was it Stella?
No.
And
oh geez, if you didn't ask me, I would.
What's Rocky's girlfriend's name?
It begins with A, doesn't it?
It's here comes Adriana.
Yes.
So you got to say
Adrian.
Adrian, and the crowd's going, get up, because unfortunately you became one of our great warriors, and this is what comes with it. It's really, really tough. It's really, really tough. We've had it over here. Look at Andrew Brigden. He's still up. He's still pounding away. He got kicked out of Parliament. We have a guy over here, Jared Renner. He was a hero of the freedom movement. He still is. Thrown out of Parliament. We're up against a madness. But look, I'll give you a gift. I'll give you a mathematical joke since you're into maths, right? Now, I don't know if you've heard, but the foundation language of modern computing and digital physics, binary numbers, are under threat because one of the numbers has come out as non-binary. It's true. All of physics is going to change. So yeah,
that is very.
And that's
funny.
me. I'm 4 a.m. here, and I'm doing that joke. There's. But we have to keep our spirits up. Honestly, they want the depression, the darkness. They want the fatigue inside your soul, doctor. That's what they want. They want to get inside you and have you give up. And that's why the powers that be, that's why they invented fuck off. That's what it's about. You literally have to. And I've met grannies, grandmothers, because I interview all these people, and they come up to me and they go, I swear all the time now. I never swore my whole life. But now I'm saying F this and F this all the time because that's the stage I'm at, you know? And so we have to fight. And I would also recommend that you get your story down in writing, because if you check your Facebook, they're obliterating, they're already memory holding us, our past on social media. I don't know how much social media you do. So we have to actually capture it in writing and then get it out there and spread and keep what you did, because in the future, they knock that woman you said who's had 11. Now, Hollywood, or wherever, what version of Hollywood survives, if things change for the better, they're not going to make heroic stories over someone that took 11 shots. They're going to make historic stories on those who fought against the darkness. That's what they'll do. You just happen to be not the audience of you. You just happen to be the hero of your novel. And this is just one of those bad days. You just got to pick it up, Keep your dog away for the vet. I would recommend that. Maybe take it to I don't know. But yeah. And
Yes,
just keep up.
I think our version of Hunger Games.
They're evil and they're serious,
I think our version of Hunger Games is like that woman who took 11 shots.
Yeah.
It's a game of Russian roulette, and she's like in what is it?
Playing with an Uzi.
The deer hunter.
Yeah.
You keep coming up to the table and rolling the dice, and she should be celebrated. She's like the girl in Hunger Games. She succeeds against the odds. Maybe the 12th shot will be the last one, but when I went to New Zealand and looked at the data with Barry Young from the pay per dose database that he ran, that was the thing that stood out to us. That there were these clusters, and some of the clusters, it was worse than playing Russian roulette. The number of people who were dead in the weeks and months after the shot. So, and again, that's consistent with that active surveillance yellow card data out of the UK. 1 in 7 serious adverse events. So it's insane. It's just insane. But I think reality is going to is starting to encroach, and despite the activist judges, despite the corruption, people. That's our hope, that people will just say no. I do not consent. I do not comply. And if enough of us stand up, we greatly outnumber these these conflicted, corrupt entities.
I posted a video last night of an interview I did with an anti-vaxxer Israeli doctor, So put that in your pipe and smoke it to the rest of the world. There he is. But he couldn't, he had a huge family. He couldn't stop anyone from getting it, even though he was an educated GP. So he was quite high up. He said nothing he could do. He says nothing he could do could stop them. So we're up against something profound. But look, you're a hero here. Even if you don't feel it, you got 2 fans here. I got up at 4 a.m. to talk to you, and we were, it's and Paul too. He was like, "What in the morning? What is that? Is that before the sun comes up?"
It was.
Yeah, it was. But here we are, and around the world, the other side aren't as passionate about this. It's just time. And an Indigenous elder, an Aboriginal elder in some town, said to me, your trouble with you guys? You're thinking like sprinters. This is a marathon. It's a marathon because they're too invested. They want to hold on to their house of cards, and they'll defend it, even if it's over the graves of thousands of kids. And that's what they're doing. And it's people can't see it because it's not like invaders or Mongols at our gates or anything like that. People can't really see it, but here's where we are. We're the first generation, where the next generation is going to be unhealthier than us, maybe even dumber than us, and they're going to die earlier. You know, this is a great crime that, and that's why I think so many people are turning to God. There's no atheists in foxholes, so people are coming to choose faith that there has to be some light to take on this darkness, and we have no other choice than to do it. You know, you're tough, you're great, you've come on this. You know, you risk your career. You're obviously super smart. You know what I mean? It's probably a much clever way of saying super smart, but anyway, it's 4 a.m, so this is the best you get. But but yeah, honestly, there is, and also you're in the only country on earth that has the best chance of defending the global freedom. Canada's fallen, Australia's falling, England's fallen, New Zealand, Ireland, and all of us is because we don't have your Bill of Rights in our Constitution. You're the only country where the darkness is all around us. But we will persevere. I really believe it. I believe we're on our way to something better, but we might just have to find our way there. And that means it's a war, and that means we'll take losses. This is a great loss, but it's not the end. Look at the Vietnamese. I mean, it was against you guys. You know, you had all the toys, and they beat you because they did not quit.
Oh, I know. My father-in-law was shot down by a female militia. We actually have it. We have it on video. Set version of public broadcasting, PBS here in the States. They were doing a expose on the underground militia in Vietnam, and they were talking to somebody, and in the background was this woman that shot my father-in-law's jet, and another 2 F-4 Phantoms is what he flew. And yeah, he was a prisoner of war for 7 years. For the first 3 years, my mother-in-law didn't know whether or not he was alive. And then they sent him to Hanoi. He was in there with McCain. And then he came back. What's interesting, and I never really thought about this. So when up until the age of 6, I was living in Massachusetts. And when my father-in-law was brought back, they brought a bunch of them to Westover Air Force Base, which is no longer an active base, but it was across the river from my town in a place called Chicopee, Mass. So my now husband came down with his mom and his sister to collect his dad. He was like 10 minutes away from me when I was 6 years of age. But I didn't meet him until I was 18 when we were both living in New Jersey. But isn't that bizarre, you know?
It is. It's incredible. Yeah.
So yeah.
He'd be a great chap, you know what I mean? Because the real core of his story would be resilience, how you survive that. We've all heard of this.
So sadly, sadly he passed away last June, but he was amazing. I mean, for what he went through, you know, mock executions pretty much daily for the first 3 years. But so this is why a lot of them went crazy. He comes back to the United States. Here he was flying jets and dropping things on small targets. And he wanted to fly commercial planes, and they wouldn't let him do that because he didn't have a college degree. So he had to go to college in order to fly commercial planes. I mean, can you just even believe that? So anyway, he got some stupid degree in like psychology of all things. And then he became the private pilot for the Citibank, which is now not Citi, it's called Citicorp or whatever, but the Citibank CEO, and he flew him all around the world in the jet. And George Bush Sr. liked to fly with my father-in-law because he was a pilot, and my father-in-law would let him fly his jet.
Wow.
They wouldn't let him do that on Air Force One for some reason, but So he had a
What a
very
story.
good life.
Yeah. What a story. That's cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, since obviously here's where we're at, I do feel for you. We've had some very despondent days in Australia, like when we lost Dazzle, you know,
Mhm.
but we persevere. That's that's the script we have, Doc. You know?
Yep.
Look at
I'm
you
not
two.
giving up. I'm just
I know. I know. It's just one of those.
I just want you to see the face of of the perpetrator that undid that. And Judge Brian E. Murphy, I
That's the
said,
judge.
is an ignorant man. And I wrote this after I read Robert Malone's post on IgG for class switching, which is something we've known for a few years, but it's massively important. Um, and instead, this judge would want people who can rubber stamp farmer-friendly ACIP members, and it's a great crime. And I hope that the Department of Justice pulls out their finger and actually does something about it, because so far they've been holding their cards very close to their fence, to the to the and you know this occurred in children. Quote: pediatric specific risk is documented, class which occurs in children aged 5 to 11 years after only two pediatric doses. So if the judge actually had any understanding, he should be horrified. But sadly, he's an ignorant man, and I hope you do get to the ACIP meeting, Dr. Biss, because they need you and they need your whole team. Just before we leave, how did you like Australia and Byron Bay?
Oh, I loved it. It was a great trip. It's just such a long, I mean, it was 17 hours in the plane to get there. I wish, I could have stayed a little bit longer and, visited some other areas while I was there. Because it's not like you're going to take that trip, every year. It's just so long. And it took me about a week to kind of adjust back to the time, when I got home. But I mean, what a trip. It was great. We drove up and back to Brisbane, from Sydney, and went when I was in Brisbane, we actually had dinner with a OBGYN who used to work in my town, but he married a woman from Brisbane and she wanted to go back in Australia. So he's been practicing there he left here in 2005. I haven't seen him since then. So we had dinner together. So that was nice to see him, again. So, and of course, I got to be with the koala, so that made the trip. Benedict. Yeah.
There's koalas. They're a strange. They're really interesting looking animal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of cute but weird. Anyway. Now the other thing, we can get help if we hear, because even though this has failed, if there's any chance we get Robert Morley on or something like this, maybe we can inspire you guys up to know that you got fans out here, fans rooting for you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's I might not get up at 4 o'clock in the morning for him, but 6 o'clock like this with a coffee, I'm there. I'm there to talk to the great man. This is it. Yeah, but I wish you the best. I know you'll perk up. I can see how tough you are, and this is just part of the fight. Part of the fight.
Yeah.
And it's interesting though that we live in a world now, even in America, that unvaccinated children who are totally unvaccinated, unless they're Amish, totally unvaccinated, are almost like the Anne Franks of our movement, hiding within society. My kids are totally unvaccinated, and they keep it to themselves. They don't let anybody know, because
Mm-hmm.
people react, even though they've never been unhealthy. And I'll tell you something really funny. This is it. This is a true story. I interviewed a man in some country town. He was a teacher who lost his job because he didn't take it. Eventually, they let him back in. When he got back in, there were 3 or 4 other teachers there in this big school that were also unvaccinated, but they had, what do you call it, where they had false certificates.
Counterfeit cards or whatever, yeah.
But they were having to call in sick, even though they weren't sick, you know, several times a year, because all the teachers who were vaccinated calling in sick. So if they were too healthy, it would give away that they were unvaccinated. So they had to pretend to be sick in order to be on the right team.
Oh my God.
To fit it. And remember, not all the unvaccinated are part of our team, you know. There were some who, on the other side, who are also unvaccinated. That in New Zealand, a small country, you know, that's thousands, and in Australia, the judges and the politicians were immune to the consequences of their freedom stripping mandates. But yeah, I'm with Michael. We can't stop until they stop injecting this in children and pregnant women. As just to bear a start, you know, they need to remove the whole product line as unsafe. But we keep going. We keep going because we can't stop for their sakes. You know, we can't stop.
That's true.
God bless you.
You too.
Doctor. You're a tough thing. You're great. You're a great doctor. In this time, you might not see it now, but God bless. Thanks for coming on. We were chuffed when you said you were coming on, and we both agreed to get up early to do this. And we are not early people, as you can see. Paul doesn't even come into the light. He won't even let the light in midday.
Yeah.
You know.
You vampire.
Thanks, Kimber.
Thank you. That constellation clitoris behind him.
It is a vulva.
It is.
It's actually the nebula tarantula, maybe tarantula, but tarantula.
Whatever, Paul.
Our version is much funnier. Okay, I'm going to let's. I'll just pick the song to finish on. Oh, what are we gonna go with? So early.
Have we got something upbeat?
Yeah, we will go out with Freedom Road. This is written by a mechanic. I filmed this. This is my partner in the back of this car. So get in the back of the car and need someone in the back. But this is what's happening in Australia. This is a mechanic who wrote this song, and it's about freedom, and it's catchy and it's good. So, you know, keep on keeping on. Keep on.
All right.
On. Take care, Doctor. Thanks for coming
on.
All
right. No problem.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
See ya.
Bye.
Get ready for the quiz show tonight. 8 o'clock Eastern Standard.
There's a sign on the highway. There's a fork in the road. A lifetime of lessons learned don't mean nothing, it shows. Armchair doctor, experts making all the rules, selling us their theories while they take us all for fools. And there's nowhere left to hide on that freedom road. Don't tell me what to think, don't tell me how to live on that freedom road. Get your hand out of my pocket, I got no more to give, I got no more to give. There's a cop in the distance behind a big box tree. There's a crime being committed somewhere, but the radar gun's on me. A quiet at 1:15, I'm doing 105. Like a fat kid on a seesaw, all tilted to one side. And there's nowhere left to hide, and no one's putting up a fight. On that freedom road, don't tell me what to think, don't tell me how to live. On that freedom road, get your hand out of my pocket. I got no more to give, I got no more to give. Clipboard, he's just out of school. He tells me that I'm doing wrong, something he could never do. The writing in a textbook ain't no substitute for life. The rules and regulations, they're just dumbing down our minds. And there's nowhere left to hide, and no one's putting up a fight. They're all just waiting around to die. On that freedom road, don't tell me what to think, don't tell me how to live. On that freedom road, get your hand out of my pocket, I got no more to give. On that freedom road, don't tell me what to think, don't tell me how to live. On that freedom road, get your hand out of my pocket, I got no more to give, I got no more to give.